Army of Darkness, $11 million. One movie, 4 different cuts, and most fans have only ever seen one of them. Let that sink in for a second. You grew up loving this movie. You quoted "This is my boomstick" 100 times, but there's a version of this film where Ash Williams never makes it home. There's a version where a different country got a completely different final scene than you did. And there's a version that Sam Raimi actually wanted you to see that got buried for years and almost nobody ever found it. So here's the question I want you to sit with while we go through this. What if the Ash Williams ending you grew up with was never the real one? Stick around, because by the end of this video, you're going to know something about this movie that most Evil Dead fans still don't. Let's start with something most people don't realize. Army of Darkness isn't really one movie. It's 4 movies wearing the same skin. There's a director's cut that runs 96 minutes. There's an international version at 88 minutes. There's the US theatrical version, chopped down to just 81 minutes. And there's a separate US television version, also running around 88 to 90 minutes, but edited completely differently again. Now that TV cut is stranger than people realize. It wasn't just the movie with the swear words bleeped out. Networks in the 90s had strict broadcast standards, so editors went in and dubbed over curse words with alternate lines, trimmed down the graphic gore to something you could show at dinner time, and even stretched the runtime with extra footage to leave room for commercial breaks. But here's the part that actually matters for fans. That version restores a scene that doesn't exist anywhere else. A sequence where Ash first meets Lord Arthur, completely missing from both the theatrical cut and the director's cut. So somewhere out there is a censored, commercial-padded broadcast version of this movie that actually has footage the definitive director's cut doesn't. Same title, same Ash, 4 different experiences. And here's where it gets weird. Depending on which one you saw, you got a different ending. Not a slightly different scene, a completely different ending, changing what actually happens to Ash Williams. So before we even get to the secrets, ask yourself this. If there are 4 official versions of this movie floating around the world, which one is the real Army of Darkness? Which one did Sam Raimi actually intend for you to watch? We need to answer that, but we can't answer it yet, because to understand the real ending, you first have to understand the one Universal lets you see. The thing about Hollywood in the early 90s is that studios didn't just release a movie and walk away. They tested it. They reworked it. And if executives got nervous, they changed the ending entirely, sometimes without the director's full blessing. Army of Darkness went through exactly that. Sam Raimi handed in a cut of this film. Universal watched it, and Universal did not like what they saw. So before we get to what you actually watched in theaters, you need to know that the version most of us know as the ending almost didn't happen the way it did. It was a compromise. So here's the ending most fans actually grew up with. Ash defeats the she-demon.
Sure, I could have stayed in the past. Could have even been king.
He drinks the potion to get back to his own time period. He wakes up back in the present day. And where does he end up? Behind the counter at S-Mart, the department store where he worked the whole time. He delivers that legendary line, "Come get some," blows away a stray deadite in front of his coworkers, and gets the girl. Clean, happy, heroic. This is the ending that played in American theaters. It's also the ending that got the film nicknamed Captain Supermarket over in Japan, because to them, the image of Ash battling monsters and then casually going back to being a store clerk was basically comedy gold. Feels like a solid ending, right? A win for the good guy. Except here's the punchline. That upbeat S-Mart ending wasn't Raimi's first choice. It was the safe version. Because once you know that, you start realizing this isn't just one changed scene. This is a pattern. Studios softening things behind the curtain, quietly deciding what audiences are and aren't allowed to feel at the end of a movie. And Army of Darkness is far from the only case. But this one has a twist that most fans never even hear about. So, if the S-Mart ending was the safe version, what did the unsafe version actually look like? Well, this is where the behind-the-scenes fight really starts. Sam Raimi's original cut of Army of Darkness did not end at S-Mart. Universal reportedly hated where Raimi wanted to leave Ash, but they thought it was too negative for a mainstream horror comedy, too bleak, too much of a downer for a movie meant to sell tickets and toys. So the question becomes, what ending did a major studio think was too dark to show 1,993 audiences? Here's what actually happened. In Raimi's version, Ash accidentally drinks too much of the sleeping potion, trying to get back home.
6 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Instead of landing safely in the present, he wakes up in a scorched, ruined, post-apocalyptic future. Buildings destroyed. The world is unrecognizable. No happy homecoming. No S-Mart. Just Ash, alone, in the wreckage of everything. And here's a detail almost nobody talks about. That wasteland was filmed at Bronson Cave, the exact same location used decades earlier for the entrance to the Batcave in the classic 1960s Batman show. Same rocks that once hid Adam West's Batmobile, now hiding a broken, apocalyptic future for Ash Williams. That's the kind of detail that connects generations of pop culture in one single shot, and barely anyone clocks it. So think about what this means. The ending Universal was scared of wasn't a random alternate scene tacked on for a DVD bonus feature. It was Raimi's original vision for how the Evil Dead story should end. Not with victory, with Ash trapped forever in a world that got worse, not better. That's the thesis question again. If that was the real ending Raimi wanted, why did we all grow up thinking the S-Mart version was the only one that existed? All right, real question for you. Which ending hits harder for you personally? The S-Mart save, where Ash gets his happy ending? Or the Wasteland ending, where he wakes up in a ruined future all alone? Drop your answer in the comments, because I've seen this debate get heated, and I want to know which side you're on. Now here's where it gets even messier, because the ending wasn't the only fight happening behind the scenes. This movie survived a small war just to get released at all. First, the Motion Picture Association of America slapped it with an NC-17 rating, mainly because of one brutal shot of a female deadite being killed early in the film. Universal wanted this thing to play as a PG-13 crowd pleaser. Instead, they were staring down the most restrictive rating in the industry. So Raimi had to go back and cut the film down, and even after trims, he still couldn't shake an R rating. Universal got frustrated and handed the film over to outside editors, who chopped it all the way down to 81 minutes for the US theatrical release. And that's not even the whole story. On top of the ratings fight, the release date itself got pushed back. From a planned summer 1992 launch all the way to February 1993, because Universal was locked in a completely separate legal dispute with producer Dino De Laurentiis over the rights to use the character Hannibal Lecter for a Silence of the Lambs sequel. Two totally different battles, tangled together, both delaying and reshaping this one cult movie. So by the time Army of Darkness actually hit theaters, it had already been cut, recut, rated, re-rated, and delayed by a fight that had nothing to do with Ash Williams at all. Which raises the real question, with that much studio interference, was there ever a true untouched version of this movie that fans were actually meant to see? There was, and almost nobody has seen it. Buried inside a 2003 director's cut DVD, released only in Hong Kong and Japan, is the one and only official version that contains what's now called the potion ending. In this version, instead of fighting or getting swept into a ruined future, Ash makes a different choice entirely. He drinks the sleeping potion and simply lets go. It's the only officially released cut that matches the ending Sam Raimi actually wanted audiences to walk away with. Not the safe S-Mart victory. Not the bleak wasteland either. Something in between, quieter, and honestly, way more haunting once you know the story behind it. And here's the detail that ties this entire movie back to classic sci-fi history. Early in the film, when the wise man tells Ash how to safely remove the Necronomicon from its pedestal, he gives him a specific phrase to say.
Klaatu Berata Niktu.
Klaatu Barada Nikto. Sounds like made-up movie magic, right? It's not. That exact line comes straight from The Day the Earth Stood Still, the 1951 sci-fi classic, where an alien named Klaatu arrives on Earth. And that phrase is literally the difference between peace and total annihilation. Sam Raimi buried a real piece of golden age sci-fi history inside a horror comedy, and it's the line that decides whether Ash gets his real ending or not. So, there's your answer. The true, untouched, Raimi-approved conclusion to Army of Darkness was never destroyed. It was just never given a real release. It sat quietly on a foreign DVD most fans never even knew existed, while the rest of the world grew up thinking the S-Mart ending was the whole story. Here's the bigger picture though. Ash Williams keeps almost escaping his fate over and over across this entire franchise, and he never fully does. Even years later in Ash vs. Evil Dead, the show pays tribute to that original downer ending, showing Ash waking up in a post-apocalyptic future all over again, like the story was always circling back to the ending Raimi wanted in the first place. And honestly, that says something bigger about where movies and even AI-shaped media are heading right now. Studios can now quietly release different versions of the same story to different audiences, different countries, different platforms, and most people will never even know another version exists. Army of Darkness was doing that back in 1993, decades before streaming made it easy. So now it's your turn. Out of the 3 real endings we just went through, S-Mart, the Wasteland, or the Potion ending, which one do you think Sam Raimi would pick today if the studio finally let him choose freely? Let me know down in the comments. I read every single one. And if this kind of deep dive into hidden movie secrets is your thing, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe, because we're just getting started uncovering what Hollywood didn't want you to see.